right. Hi, my name is Jonathan Weichsel. That was quite an introduction. I hope Sara didn't tell you that I'm a big Hollywood star, because I'm not. I'm really on the outskirts of the film industry there. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about writing process, and then maybe get into what it's like living in Los Angeles and working or trying to work in the film industry. And also, can everybody understand me, or do you need Sara to interpret? Everything? All right, great. All right. I think before you even get started writing, it's really important to put a lot of thought into what you're going to do, because the screenplay you're going to write, it might take you 8 months to write. And if you're going to spend 8 months or even a year on something, it has to be, not only an idea that interests you, but something you feel passionate about. Because if it's an idea that, maybe like you're not so interested in it, or you don't feel so passionate about it, you're going to get bored after 4 or 5 months and, give up. So, it's really important to give yourself time to come up with a really good idea for your screenplay. And, in Hollywood, they call that idea a log line. And a log line is a couple sentences that encapsulates your story. And the log line should start with, the protagonist, what your main character has to do, and what horrible thing will happen if your protagonist doesn't accomplish his or her goal. It's important, I think, when you come up with a log line, you should give yourself a few to work with and really spend a lot of time, like weeks, coming up with this basic idea. And the idea, it should be like, this is a blank character who must blank or else blank. And your job when you're coming up with a log line is to fill in the blanks. So this is a blank character. That first blank should be maybe a problem that he has. Like, this is an immature character. Or this is a character who's, struggling with money. Or this is a character with an overbearing father. Or some kind of, problem that the character has, some kind of internal problem that he's going to overcome throughout the course of the screenplay. Because, of course, there's going to be an external conflict that he has to overcome. That's going to be very obvious on the page. But what's not so obvious often is the internal conflict that the character has to overcome. For example, has everybody seen the movie Jurassic Park? All right, so, Jurassic Park is about, this cool anthropologist who's, battling dinosaurs. And that's what everybody remembers from Jurassic Park. But what they don't remember is, at the very beginning of Jurassic Park, the anthropologist guy, a little kid comes up and asks some questions about dinosaurs. And he's like, listen, I don't have time to answer some questions from some stupid kid, right? You remember that scene? He's in the helicopter, and the kid comes up. And then, he's got, I forget if it's his wife or whatever, but, she's pressuring him to, start a family. He's like, I don't want to do this. But then in Jurassic Park, in the movie, he's got these 2 little kids that he has to protect from the dinosaurs. And by the end of the movie, you see that he really loves the kids, and his whole attitude has changed. So while he has an external conflict that he has to go through, with the dinosaurs, he also has this internal growth. And you see that in pretty much every single Steven Spielberg movie, that the character has, some kind of internal growth that they have to go through. So, this is a blank character, an anthropologist who, doesn't like kids, who has to, overcome blank. The dinosaurs have escaped from the park, and he has to put them back. That's in the second blank, so, he has to overcome blank, or else blank, that third blank is the horrible thing that'll happen if he doesn't overcome the challenge, or else they'll all be eaten by dinosaurs. So, it's a very interesting idea for a movie, and there's a lot you could do with it. But, the important thing is that, it makes sense and that it's solid. It also helps if there's a little bit of irony in your log line. Irony is when, something maybe doesn't quite fit or doesn't quite mesh. And, the irony in Jurassic Park is that you have the guy who doesn't like kids who all of a sudden is in a position where he's got to, protect these children. It's going to take a while to come up with that log line. I know, on the internet they have like this automatic log line generator where it's kind of like Mad Libs, where they just put a lot of words together to come up with a log line. But that isn't really a good way to come up with a good idea for a movie. It's something that you should put a lot of thought into it and do a lot of just writing in a notebook, that doesn't even wind up on the page or on the screen, just so that you can understand the basic idea of your screenplay and what you want your characters to go through and what kind of growth you want to see in your characters. Because in the logline, it's not just the story, but it's also, the theme, the idea that you want to get across in your story. So I think Sara was talking about the 3-act structure of the screenplay, it's very important. I think the 3-act structure is just a fancy way of saying beginning, middle, and end. Every story has a beginning, every story has a middle, and every story has an end. And Hollywood movies are very formulaic. Everything happens in a certain order. In almost every Hollywood movie, like every big blockbuster you're going to see, it's going to start out with a character who's either a child or he's in a childlike state. You could say Luke Skywalker at the beginning of Star Wars, he's going to be living a very sheltered life, not self-actualized. But at some point something's going to happen to disrupt his life. He's going to be called to stop it. He's going to resist the call. He's going to meet an older mentor who's going to tell him, you've got to go stop this. And he's going to go off on his own on an adventure to, fix the problem. And then at the end of the movie, he's going to return, a changed person. And, also he's going to change, the community where he's in. And that's every Hollywood blockbuster that you're going to see. But, not every movie that you watch follows that formula, so it's also important to be flexible. Sara and I both write horror, and, a lot of times in horror, like, the protagonist's goal is just to not die, And so most, in most Hollywood movies, they would say that's not a very strong goal. But if you watch something like, Evil Dead, I think Bruce Campbell's goal is literally to not die. There are many different ways to play with the formula. And, it's important to know it. I think as a writer, you need to know screenplay structure. And you need to be familiar with it, but also as a writer, it's important to be flexible and to be able to, change it around, because you got your own story that you need to tell, and if the structure just isn't serving your story, you need to be creative enough and flexible enough to say, well, okay, this needs to change. I've got to do away with what I learned, and, I've got to, try something else. Let's see. That's really what I have to say about writing. Does anybody have any questions before I kind of get into Hollywood? Yes.
Maybe sometimes you wrote another things.
Yeah.
But how many times you failed?
Oh, it's mostly failure. I've written a lot that's no good. I've written a lot that I don't like. A lot of it just winds up in notebooks. But I've written entire screenplays that I don't like and that I don't, show to people and that I don't send out, just because I think they're stupid. You just have to be prepared for that. Like, not everything you write is going to be good. Not everything you write is going to be genius. But I think as a writer, it's really important to be able to look at your work critically and to be able to say, this is good, this is not good. Because there are a lot of writers who can't do that. There are a lot of writers who think that every single word that they write is absolutely brilliant and, can't be changed, and, it's just perfect because I'm perfect. And nobody's perfect, and your writing's not going to be perfect. So it's very important to be able to look at your writing critically. And, other times, other writers are too hard on themselves. Other writers look at their writing and they say, well, everything I write is horrible, everything I write stinks, and I'll never, this will never work, and they just wind up throwing everything out and just, like crumpling up every page and throwing it in the garbage or whatever, and you can't do that either. So you need to be balanced, and you need to be critical when you're looking at your work. Did I see another hand back here? Yes.
For example, if you have like an idea of writing something, how do you create the context and the story around it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I always write outline for my screenplays. Usually it's about 5 pages of just prose. I find that if you break it up into like beats or bullet points, it doesn't work for me. Because a screenplay is richer than that and has more material than that. So I write something 3 to 5 pages of prose, and I use it to write my screenplay. I also revise my outline while I'm writing the screenplay. Usually I'll write out all 3 acts and then in an outline, and then I'll write the first act of the screenplay, and once I get to the end of the first act, I'll go and look at the outline that I've written, and it never works because my screenplay always changes from when it's an outline to when it's a screenplay. So I go back and I rewrite Act 2, the outline, and then I write my screenplay based on that. And then a lot of stuff has changed there, so I go back and I rewrite Act 3. So I always have an outline, but it's never set in stone. I'm always very flexible with it, and I'm always, constantly changing it. So, don't get stuck in anything. Like, your mind has to be very plastic the way it works. It needs to be very flexible, and you just can't be too rigid when you write. Anything else? Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. I think I moved to Hollywood in 2008. Not much was, going on in my life, and I didn't have very much to lose, so I just decided to pick up and move to Hollywood and, try to become a screenwriter. I find that, I've been living there a long time, and, a lot of people move into Hollywood with expectations that are way too high. A lot of people, they move to Hollywood with stars in their eyes, and they think they're going to be a star and a millionaire in just like 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks go by, and they're not a star, and they're not a millionaire, and they get very depressed, and they move home and try to figure out what they're going to do with their lives. And so I think it's very important to have realistic expectations. Whatever you want to do in Hollywood, whether you want to, do indie Hollywood or break into the studios, it's going to take years and years and years. It could take 5 years, it could take 10 years, it could take 12 years. Ang Lee, who, he directed, he was working, for 10 years just doing little small odd jobs before he got to direct his first movie. Same with me. I moved to Hollywood. I've been, for my first year I was just doing little odd jobs and trying to get by. It wasn't working at all. And then for, about 4 years, I had a job as an office manager, and, I was doing well, but it was taking up too much time. from everything I was doing, and too much energy too. So, over the summer, I, quit that job and I started just doing background acting work just to, make money so that I could get by. Does everybody know what background is? Yeah. Basically, like in any movie, there are main characters, and then like there are extras in the background, and I'm just working like as one of those extras in the background, and that's kind of how I'm getting by right now. It is important to go there with a plan on how to make money, because you're going to need it to live. You can't just, go there and expect to, magically survive. So you do need that, but it should be a job that, pays your bills, but doesn't take up too much energy and doesn't take up too much time, because you want to save that energy and that time to work in your screenplays, to go out and network with people, to go to parties and meet people, and all of that important stuff. When I was working at the as an office manager, it was very hard work, and a lot of times I'd work all day, and then I'd go out to network, and I'd be so tired and in such a bad mood that I just wasn't physically capable of, carrying on a conversation. So all of these things are, important to think about. I meet so many people, there was one girl I met who wanted to be an actress, or she moved to Hollywood to be an actress, but she didn't want to be, she didn't have an interest in acting, she didn't study acting, she didn't go to school to learn about acting. It's just she thought that, or she believed, or she said that Jesus told her to be an actress. So I said to her, why would Jesus want you to be an actress? Well, because I'm special, because I'm amazing, because I'm a wonderful person, and it doesn't really, you have to be realistic about yourself. You can't be delusional about yourself. You have to have realistic expectations about what your talents are, what you can do, what you can accomplish, or else you're going to be setting yourself up for failure. It's also important to maintain a positive outlook, because, while all these delusional people, they come out here and they say, yeah, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it, I'm going to be a big star, I'm going to be walking the red carpet, I'm going to win an Oscar, I'm going to give my Oscar speech, I'm going to thank my mom and my dad and all of my teachers in front of the entire world, and then, after a few months, they get so depressed. How come I didn't make it? Why didn't I make it? Oh, God, I'm horrible. And so, they get negative, and it's important to remain positive, because in my career I see, a lot of, positive things happen to me. I win a lot of writing awards, I go to a lot of film festivals, I network with a lot of people, I meet with a lot of people, but then, I also see many setbacks. Maybe I start to work on something and it doesn't quite work out, or, I meet with people and it doesn't quite gel, or I don't quite get along with them. And, you can't let your setbacks, discourage you. If you have a setback or, a disappointment, what you have to do is you have to sit down and you have to analyze the situation, and you have to say, okay, I sat down, I had this conversation, or I had this meeting, or, this didn't quite work out, and you have to ask yourself, why didn't it work out? What could I do to have made this situation work out more positively? And then next time you're in that situation, and the same thing happens, you're going to be able to respond differently based on what you learned. But if you have a setback and you just blame yourself and you get all negative about yourself and just start beating yourself up, then that's not going to work. You're just going to bring yourself down, and you're going to be setting yourself up for failure. So, just like with writing, where you need to be critical and you need to look at your own writing with a critical eye, in terms of networking and working in the industry, you also need to be able to look at yourself with a very critical eye and say, what am I doing that works and what am I doing that doesn't work, and try to do the things that work. it really does, take years and years. You also need to find projects that you're passionate about, and you need to find people that, where you see eye to eye with them and you're very passionate about the projects. Because, like if you're working on a project and it's just for money and you don't feel very passionate about it, it's going to get depressing. And it's even more depressing if you're working on a project that you're not passionate about and there's no money involved. So there's not going to be money involved in your first projects. The first screenplays you write, you'll probably wind up writing them for free. If you're an actor, the first movies you act in, you'll probably wind up acting in them for free. If you're a producer, you're not going to make money off of your first 2 or 3 movies. You're going to, lose other people's money. If you're a director, same thing. So it's really important to find projects that you're very passionate about. This year alone, I've had a lot of success. I won first place at a film festival called Shockfest, where I won in 2011 and 2012, and I also won an award at a Hollywood festival called RIP Film Festival. That's the Rest in Peace Film Festival. I won the award for Most Twisted Screenplay, and these are just screenplays that I wrote that I enter in festivals that have categories for unproduced screenplays. So it's a lot of fun for me. I get to go there. I get to get my picture taken on the red carpet. I get to network with people. I get to meet awards. I get to go to parties, and it's a lot of fun. I'm working with a director who I really like. Her name's Amy Hesketh. She is American, but she works out of Bolivia. And, she directs movies that I really like and that I feel very passionate about. And she asked me to write a screenplay for her. And, I'm working on that right now. I'm maybe a third of the way through. And it's coming along really well. And I feel very, very, very passionately about it. So, there are, going to be setbacks, but, there are also going to be, very, positive things happening. So, and she's somebody who I met at a film festival called Polygrind in Las Vegas in probably late September, early October. So, there's going to be, I really love her movies, and I really see eye to eye with her, and, we agree on a lot of stuff and bounce ideas back and forth with each other, and, it's just a really positive and creative process, and that's really what you want to look for. Now, in neither situation is there any money for me or any guarantee of pay, which is why it's important that I have, my side gigs where I can, make money to pay my rent. But at the same time, it's about working on, projects that are creative, that are important to you, and that you feel passionately about.